Welcome to Nikki Speaks TV, the relationship series. The pandemic forced us all to slow down and do an assessment of our relationships. Whether you're dating, engaged, married, or divorced, we'll share tools to help everyone. Join me this season as my guest and I talk about all things relationships. Welcome to Nikki Speaks TV, you guys, the relationship series. Today, I'm so excited to have my special guest in studio today, James Butler, best-selling author and men's mentor. Welcome to Nikki Speaks TV, James. I'm so glad that you're here. So tell the audience who you are and what you do and, the book that you've written and everything about you.
Yes, my name is James Butler, like you said, and I really have enjoyed this whole process that the Lord has brought me on. One of which is that he gave me this book to write to help men understand that the woman in their life is beautiful. They chose her, and to keep their eyes focused on her and not look at other women, by doing so, men dilute their own Kool-Aid. Right. And so I've been given this task that I should inform men of the benefits of remaining focused on the beauty of your own wife and just rediscover some beauty within her. And for men, if they will just do that, I believe it will help marriages tremendously.
Wow, what a powerful mission that you've embarked upon. But I think it's definitely needed, so I definitely appreciate, this month or this series that I'm doing is the relationship series. And so, I wanted to have you on when I heard about your book and the impact that you're having on a global level. I definitely wanted to have you as my guest to kind of share a little bit more. I think it's an interesting topic, not diluting your Kool-Aid, so we'll get more into that in just a moment. But tell us, you talk in the book about girl watching. So kind of tell me a little bit about that. What is that?
For the single man, there's absolutely nothing wrong with girl watching. You have to look and find the woman that you want to devote your life to. And once you've done that, though, then the search is really over. Once you've made that commitment, and she's made the commitment back to you, of course. But once you've done that, then commit not only your heart to her and your soul and body and all the nice things that we men say we commit, but commit your eyes to her as well.
Right. Which, how do you do that when there's so many so many women and men in the world? How do you suggest?
Well, the thing is that you're going to see other females, but right. We men, we know what we're doing when we are checking out the menu, when we are looking and observing, or maybe even checking out a silhouette. And that's more than just the casual glance. No, all men are going to see other women, but that does not mean that he has to stare at her and gawk at her. Too many of us do that. We will have a committed relationship that's wonderful, but yet we're still gawking and looking at other women that are not our wives. And the saddest part about that, Nikki, is that many men do that for reasons they can't even quantify. They'll look at women they don't want for reasons they don't know, and it's harming insidiously and slowly their own relationship that they do hold dear. So many men are not doing it on purpose. Right. Many men are doing it and they're unaware that they're even doing it.
Do you think it's out of habit?
It is out of habit. As a young man, we are taught that girl watching is a sport. Well, that's fine for the single man. That's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, look until you make a decision. But like I said, once you make a decision, stick with her. Right. And let her be the focus of your attention. Focus on her like a laser beam when you are with her. And you'll notice other women around when you're not with her, but don't focus in on those other women because they're not your wife. They're not the woman that's committed her life to you. The one who has deserves your honest and your truthful and your devoted eyes, as well as the rest of you.
I love that. I love that. So, James, why is this important to you? You know, I often ask people when they write a book or they have a passion in life, you know, why, what is their why? So why do you want to help men in this area?
I have held Bible studies where that I've helped men to become better men. And in doing so, I become a better man as well.
Right.
And when this topic came up, I found that almost to a man, every single one was struggling with this issue of looking so much at other women that it was hard for some men to even have a face-to-face conversation, because let another woman walk by and they're looking at the woman and they're not even talking to their friend.
A little
They're
distracted.
too busy looking at these other women, and they don't really want that woman, but they want to look. And the problem with that is that many of the men that I interviewed would tell me that they were doing that and it was helping their marriage. So I would ask them the question, okay, if it's helping your marriage, do you think your wife will sign off on you doing all this girl watching? Well, then, of course, the answer was no, of course not. I would never disrespect her like that. Well, in person, you would never do it because she might slap you upside your head. However, doing it behind her back is just as bad.
Right.
Because the effects are downstream. And that's what the book is trying to highlight and illustrate, is that it doesn't happen overnight that you dilute your Kool-Aid. It happens a drop at a time. It happens just a little bit at a time. But over a period of time, you can take what was refreshing and new and wonderful and make it less delightful, make it a little bit less tasty. And too many men, we do that. We have done that, where we have taken a perfectly great relationship and we've diluted it ourselves. And then we point to the woman as if she has done something wrong because she now does not look as glamorous as she did once upon a time, when much of that is attributed to us as men diluting our own Kool-Aid.
Wow. So, you know, people that have been together for years and years and years, I mean, how do they keep it fresh, keep it new, and don't dilute their Kool-Aid? You know, they've been with someone for a while, so like you said, their bodies might have changed, maybe even their attention span, you know, when it comes to each other, their affection for one another. What do you suggest to the men that you help?
One of the rules that I've recently learned, and I call it a rule that I believe every man should do, is that he should compliment his wife on the beauty that she has, her inner beauty, her outer beauty, and help her to understand that he still views her as beautiful. By telling her that, she can feel better about her husband, but also you hear yourself saying it as well. And it will lie in your own psyche that, yes, my wife is beautiful.
That's a good point.
And then I don't need to be looking at all these other women because I've got a beautiful woman at home waiting for me. And I try to help men understand that once you start that process of letting her know how beautiful you think she is, you'll tell yourself that as well. And you can then rediscover some different beauty that she has. It might be still her eyes. Even if she gains a few pounds, her eyes are still beautiful. Her mouth, her lips, other things that were part of the package that attracted you in the first place.
Right.
It wasn't just the silhouette. It's usually considerably more, but we lose track of some of the small nuances of the beauty of the woman because we're too busy looking at other women. Where that if we can start looking back at our wives with that same kind of energy that we had when we first met them, we had that energy and we were looking at them then, we can rediscover what I call parolee fever. In the book, I mentioned what parolee fever is. And parolee fever is a phrase that I coined to describe the energy that we men can rediscover. We had that once upon a time when we were dating and courting and trying to convince this woman that we are the one for her. We spent that time and energy and we let her know. And she obviously fell for that energy. She obviously grasped onto that energy. She obviously liked it, or she would never have committed herself to you in the first place.
Right.
And then over a period of time, we can kind of lose some of that energy. I'm helping men to rediscover that energy, and I call that parolee fever. Imagine a parolee who's been locked up for a while, and then he's set free, give him parole, and his woman is waiting at home for him. He's driving down the street expeditiously.
Weaving through traffic.
Weaving through traffic. And he's not paying attention to all of the other fine, beautiful, gorgeous, awesome women that are walking up and down the streets because he's focused. He's got his mind focused. He's hurrying home to the woman that has committed herself to him, who's also waiting for him to come there.
Right.
And so he's driving home, in fact, to the point to where he's probably going to call her.
I was just about to ask about the phone call.
And tell her, baby, I've been thinking about you for a long time. And I can't wait to see you. I can't wait to see you. I can't wait to see your beautiful face. I can't wait to hold you in my arms. We can rediscover that type of energy. And I submit there's not a woman on earth that doesn't want that from her husband, to where every day he is dying to come home from work, assuming he has to go to work, assuming he has to be separated from the woman he loves. He can't wait to get back to her. And at first, some women may be a little skeptical, because of particularly if this is a new behavior all of a sudden, right?
What did you do?
What did you do? What are you up to? And there's some suspicion, and that's normal. And so, but after a while, the woman will become accustomed to where if we do this right, gentlemen, if we do this right, she'll be looking at her watch like, it's time for this man to be home. This man should be here now. It must be traffic. To where she'll be anxious for you to walk through the door, as anxious as you are, because you're coming home with that parolee fever.
I love it. I love it. So James, tell us about social media, because there may be a couple or, a husband that's at home that says, well, I don't dilute my Kool-Aid. I don't look at women when I'm out, when I'm with my friends or what have you. But on social media, he may follow some women, or he may see some videos that he frequents. And so how do we navigate that? Because that's the way of the world now. Social media is just a thing, So how can men guard themselves from falling into that pattern of girl watching when it's just prevalent? It's right there before them.
One tool that men can use, and we all can use, is that if you know it's not good for your marriage, then have some integrity. We define integrity as doing the right thing when no one else is even watching. Right. There is energy that can be expended looking at pornography, looking at certain articles on the internet. Just practice saying no. Practice saying no. It will be difficult for some men at first because we are conditioned to, there's nothing wrong with looking. I submit there is. I submit there is something wrong with looking and gawking and having this vision or undressing with our eyes. Right. On the internet, you don't have to even undress with your eyes. Right. It's just click.
Right.
When you see that, if you know your wife would not want you looking at it, don't dilute your Kool-Aid. Just go ahead and skip over to something else wholesome. And for some men, accountability can be helpful, to where contact another man who is determined that he's not going to dilute his Kool-Aid either, and help support each other and hold each other accountable. Because once a man is convinced that this can be beneficial to his marriage. And he starts seeing the results of his wife being happy and his wife being joyful and his wife showing him all of the affection and admiration and love and respect that he wants. Don't jeopardize that for something on a cell phone or something on the computer, because that's not real. You have a real, beautiful, loving woman that you get to see, you get to hold, you get to love. Enhance that relationship that's really real, instead of this fantasy that is not, and that is damaging what you already have.
Right. That's a good point. And I know, I mean, I've heard you tell me about different men that you've worked with before, and I feel that they feel safe with you, you know, that they can be vulnerable and share with no judgment, you know, the things that they might have done and, you know, some things they've slipped into and been a part of, you know. So, you know, I just think that that's admirable. Why is it that they can come to you? I mean, what is it that you want to express to them so that they know that they have a safe place to come to without judgment?
Well, I understand how prevalent female beauty is in our society. It's used to sell everything, and if it did not work, they would not continue doing it.
Right.
But at the same time, you can see something without staring. You can see something without gawking. Right. You can see something without really fixating your eyes onto that. I submit, fixate your eyes into the woman who has the characteristics that you already like, or you wouldn't have chosen her in the first place. There was a gentleman where I worked that one time he approached me, and by the way, I had just come from having a men's meeting where we were discussing the subject of girl watching and how dangerous and disastrous it can be to a great marital relationship. And so I'm walking toward him, and I didn't even really know this gentleman, but I had seen him around maybe, I think, and he said, say, man, check out that female over there behind you. And I told him, I said, I'm sorry, brother, but I don't dilute my Kool-Aid. He said, dilute your Kool-Aid? What does that mean? I said, well, if you've got a couple minutes, I'll be happy to explain it to him. So I did, and I talked to him about it. Come to find out, he was a married man, and that he then confided with me that he had been cheating on his wife on multiple occasions. And that his brother had been praying for him. His brother had been hoping that he would return to the Lord. And so after confessing this to me, I spoke with him and I led him back to Christ that day with the sinner's prayer. And awesome. He left. That very next day, he came back to where my office was, and he told me, he said, I've got something I need to tell you. And he told me that he had gone home to his wife and confessed his wrongdoings to his wife and told her how sorry he was for everything that he had done and how he had met this guy who told him about don't dilute your Kool-Aid and all of this. And then his wife confessed her indiscretions that he had no idea. So he and her prayed together for the first time in years. They confessed each other's faults. They cried tears. He called his brother and told his brother that I had led him back to Christ and that he was now redevoting his life, his heart, his mind, his soul, his body, as well as his eyes back to his wife. And that gave me such a good feeling. That gave me inspiration to help me understand the effect and the impact that a redirection or a refocus can happen. Whether it happens immediately, that may or may not happen. But once the attitude is in your own mind as a man to say, I'm going to make every effort to stop diluting my Kool-Aid till I get to a point where I'm no longer diluting my Kool-Aid, and I want my Kool-Aid full strength. Wow.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I know we want to show an example a little experiment
Okay, I'm happy to do
on
that.
how to dilute your Kool-Aid, how not to.
I have some
But
full strength Kool-Aid right here. And just going to pour some into this glass. And Kool-Aid itself is a very refreshing drink. It's meant to be full strength.
right.
It's not meant to be diluted. I don't think anyone really likes Kool-Aid that does not taste good.
No, no.
But if
Has to have lots of sugar in it.
have lots of sugar and water, you got to
Yeah.
have
Oh,
that,
yeah,
and the
water too.
Kool-Aid mix itself. And you have to have a good mix. If you follow the manufacturer's instructions, the Kool-Aid will taste good.
Thanks for connecting with us today. Nikki Speaks Therapy is a platform that focuses on sharing tips, tools, and strategies to help you have a healthier and happier life. Follow us at nikkispeakstherapy.com to stay up to date on all Nikki Speaks events. I'm so glad you're here.
I believe that the Lord has given us all instructions on how to have a very full marriage. In the book Song of Solomon, he describes to his wife every nuance of her body from the top of her head to the bottom of her feet with such detail. And he said he was enraptured or intoxicated with her beauty because he focuses on her beauty.
Wow.
We men can learn by his example by focusing ourselves on the beauty of the woman we have. When another woman walks by that we take our focus off of our wife, we're doing two things. One is we're no longer focusing in on our wife, but we're looking at someone else's wife, perhaps, or some other woman that is not our wife. And so when we do that, I submit that we are diluting our Kool-Aid, just a drop or two at a time. And we do that insidiously where we don't even realize it. But then another woman will go by, or maybe we're with friends and our wives aren't even there to
Hanging out with the boys.
sneak, hanging out with the boys. And some of the other guys are, wow, look at her, look at her, look at her. And we fall trapped to peer pressure, and we do. Then what we're doing, we're just putting a couple more drops in there, putting more couple drops. And over a period of time, you'll find out that our wife doesn't really look as good as she did. Did she change from when you left for work that day? No, no. I submit she did not. She was still the same beautiful woman that you kissed goodbye, said, babe, I love you. And then you go out and look at all these other women that many of them have spent hours and hours and hours, nothing wrong with that, to make themselves as beautiful as they can be. And the woman you have at home is maybe taking care of your bad kids. She's been frustrated all day, trying to clean your house. I'm assuming that's the traditional lifestyle, but maybe it isn't. But the point is that she didn't spend hours and hours getting herself to look her very best for you. But she's still the same person that you love and that you've committed yourself to. But no, what we do, look at some more women going by, and what do?
Keep diluting.
Just keep diluting our Kool-Aid.
Yeah, and it's changing colors and everything. It's not as red as it was before.
We just, say, oh, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just checking out the menu. I've heard so many excuses for bad behavior.
Right.
Well, I'm just window shopping. I'm not trying to buy a thing. That's silly to me. Why are you looking at something that you know you don't even want at the risk of damaging something you do want?
Right. Do you think there's a difference between admiring someone's beauty that you see and diluting your Kool-Aid? Is there a difference in that? Is it still safe?
There is a fine line between that, and very few men can really successfully do that. It's one thing that you walk past a woman that is classy and dressed nice, and you say, that's a class act woman. She looks very nice today. And even giving compliments to a coworker or another woman that you see that looks nice. That's fine within the context of you're just being complimentary.
What if you
But there's a
compliment every
difference.
day?
There's a difference between saying, you look very nice today, or you look really nice today. There is a
Right.
difference between that. And we men know the difference. We do.
Mhm.
We do. And for any man who does not know the difference, buy my book.
Yeah. And then what if they compliment every day? Do you think that's okay? The coworker, they're complimenting the coworker every day?
Well, that sets the stage for problems down the
Yeah.
line. You don't need to
Definitely.
tell your coworker every single day that she's beautiful. You should be telling the woman who's committed
Mhm.
in your life that she's beautiful.
Right.
Every now and then, it's nothing wrong with letting a coworker know that. However, even some of that can be foreseen or seen as sexual abuse, sexual
Harassment.
harassment. That's what I'm looking
Right.
for. So, men, just be careful.
Right.
Just be careful. And then it comes back to, what is your intent?
Right.
Are you trying to make her smile?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Why not make the wife smile? Make sure she smiles first.
Right. Right.
And then, if you want, ask your wife, how does she feel about you complimenting
part,
the other
yes.
women that are in the office?
Yeah.
Ask her what she feels and honor her request, because that's part of our vows, right?
Right.
That we would honor the woman in our life
Right.
with not only our mind, our body, our soul,
Mhm.
our body parts, but
Mhm.
also our eyes.
Right.
It's not as difficult as some men say it is. You must reprogram your thinking, though, and see the value in doing it.
Right.
We've invested so much of our energy and time and effort into our marriages.
Mhm.
Why let it slip away looking at other women? Now, the other problem with continuing to look at other women
Mhm.
in that way is that eventually many men have seen a woman that really does fancy them. A
Mhm.
woman who does have the physical and or beauty characteristics that he really does like,
Mhm.
and then finds himself drawn to her. And then he's got that internal battle he has to fight.
Right.
Many men have not won that battle.
Mm.
Many men have lost that battle, thus leading to extramarital affairs,
Mhm.
leading to a disastrous road in their marriage that started off somewhat innocent, but yet developed into something
Mhm.
very tragic.
Right.
Too many men have lost the love of their life because of looking at other women so much that they did find one that really caught them at a weak moment.
Mhm. Mhm.
Many strong men in the Bible have fallen behind one look.
Mhm.
King David is a prime example of that.
Mhm.
Just one look. The Bible only records one look.
Right.
There may have been others, but it only records one look that he looked and saw, and that woman and his desires ended up being a destruction of a very great king.
Mm.
So if it can happen to a King David who had all the acclaim of all of Israel, who is to say it cannot happen to a simple person like me, or a simple person like my friends, or a simple person to other co-workers? It can happen to any man.
Right.
Do not think it cannot happen to you. I hate to use double negatives, but
Right.
think positively. I'm going to improve my marriage by refusing to dilute my Kool-Aid.
And you mentioned also, James, about the value of not diluting your Kool-Aid, and I see it changing all the way there. What's the value for a man that maybe he sees nothing wrong with it? He hasn't, gone past just the looking and had an extramarital affair or anything like that. What do you feel is the value of him not diluting his Kool-Aid?
Well, several things. One, just because you haven't fallen doesn't mean you can't.
True.
Bible is real clear. Let him who thinks he stand take heed, or be careful, lest you do fall. So always be aware that if it could happen to other people, it can happen to you as well. It just takes the right circumstance, the right smile,
Timing.
the right timing. You could have had a disagreement with your wife that was heated. And it may have been over a prolonged period of time to where you're just really tired of arguing with her. And then here comes this other female that just says, "What's wrong? Why are you so down?" Next thing you know, you're confiding in a woman other than your wife about marital problems. And that is the road
Dangerous.
to danger. That's one of the roads. There's many others, but that's certainly one of the roads. The other thing is the benefits. I would speak about that in the book, about having benefits of having full strength Kool-Aid. You can reassure the woman in your life that she is the special one. That while you recognize there are other beautiful women in the world, the one you love, the one you are focused on, the one you want to come home to is her. It can help build her self-esteem.
Right.
It can help build her. It can help energize her. Maybe she has not felt the motivation to lose the extra pounds that she's gained over the marriage, to where now she wants to keep the attention from her husband because he's telling her, like he said on the way home from that parolee fever, "I've been thinking about you all day long, girl. I can't wait to see you." So
Right.
she wants that energy, and it will help her feel maybe a little better about herself. And then that translates into her energy back toward you. It's a nice cycle where that we can continue to love each other and admire each other and compliment each other and really become a stronger bonded team.
Right.
Because she has temptations as well.
Right.
She has to fight those. So if she can fight hers, why can't we fight ours? And one of the things that has tempted so many men has been the allure of the eye, where that we have controlled every other part of our body except our eye. And then the eye leads your mind to start thinking, and then your mind controls all the other parts.
Right. Right. That's a good point. As a closing point, James, you talk about gorilla gawking. Tell the audience what that is.
Okay. Here's the sad state of affairs. There are some women that can actually handle if their man is looking at an absolutely drop-dead, gorgeous, class act, professional looking, or just a beautiful woman. Because she can say, "Well, I mean, that woman is really beautiful. I cannot expect him to just not look at her. Maybe not stare at her forever, but at least glance at her." And the woman can say, "I know you saw her." And the man said, "Yeah, she's attractive." And go on, leave it at that. But what the gorilla gawker does, the gorilla gawker looks at any and every single female that goes by that might have a particular body part that he fancies. It could be her feet. It could be her ears. Unlikely, but it could be. And then these men will look at every woman, whether she's dressed appropriately, whether she's dressed inappropriately, whether she is reasonably attractive or not. And in most cases, the gorilla gawker is looking at women that are not even attractive by certain standards. And then what that does is when that wife catches him looking at a woman like that, she's thinking, "Wait a minute, that's what he likes? I'm over here looking like this, and he's looking at her?" There are some men that I've seen, that I've teased and said that if a female gorilla were to walk into the office with a short skirt and a tight blouse on, there would be many guys looking at her and saying out loud, "Ooh, she's kind of hairy, but I think I could deal with it."
Oh my gosh.
That's how sick this disease can be for some men. And then they have a much beautiful wife at home. But how can her self-esteem be high if her husband's a gorilla gawker? He's looking at every single woman that goes by she can maybe get with some of the pretty ones, but she cannot handle the ones that are far less beautiful than her. And some of the women in this, it's not the woman's fault, because the men is the ones staring and gawking and looking at any and every single woman. I've teased and said the woman could have 7 strands of hair on her head and 4 teeth in her mouth, but if she's got that body part that he really likes, he'll check her out anyway. If the wife were to catch him looking at that female, you mean that's what you like? That's what you want to focus on when you've got this?
Right.
Are you kidding me? It's not worth it.
Right.
It's never worth it.
Well, let's look at your Kool-Aid here. In closing, James, kind of share about your book and, talk to the audience about the men that you want to work with. I know you have some ideas and some workshops and some different things that you're going to be doing to help men in particular. So,
well, first of all, I want men to follow me on Instagram at No Diluted Kool-Aid.
Okay.
And they can purchase the book via the Instagram. There is a link that they can purchase the book as well.
Okay.
And there are organizations that are in need of the seminar so that men can be taught the tools necessary so that they can learn how and why it's important that you do not dilute your Kool-Aid. Right. There's benefits. In the book, I call it Married with Benefits, because the joy that your wife can bring you when she feels so secure that you're not diluting your Kool-Aid, when she knows that when you're out, you're thinking about getting back to her, that can energize any marriage. Right. Can energize any marriage. So I submit that men are able to focus back on their wives. Follow me on Instagram, and we have upcoming events that are coming that will help men to be able to get those tools, but get knowledge, get information, and get help. Because what's at stake are marriages. Marriages involve not only your own heart, of course, and her heart, but children, finances, family, friends. When a marriage is torn apart, friends are often having to choose sides when that's unfair to them as well. Everyone loses in a divorce. Right. Everyone loses. And some of that could be avoided, I believe, if men would focus with parolee fever, stop guerrilla gawking, and commit themselves with some I do's, is what I call it. I do's. All of us who've been married call, and we have made commitments at the altar. I do. Do you take this woman? I do. Do you? I do. Do you? Oh, I do. Oh, yes, I do. But then once we're married for so long, we need a refresher course. Right. And in my book, I call it the recommitting, or the commit yourself to commit more I do's. Today, I do commit that I'm going to compliment the woman in my life. Woman, you're beautiful, and I just love being able to look at you. Compliment her. I do commit my eyes to not dilute my Kool-Aid with beautiful women, with any other woman out there. That I want to remain focused like a laser beam on my wife, on the woman in my life. That's what I want. I do also compliment her again. I compliment her love for me. I make her feel important. I do these things because I want to show her that I'm not diluting my Kool-Aid. She may ask the question, what has come over you? And that's fine.
Let me take your temperature. No.
That's fine. That's fine, because, it may be very different for her. And the answer is very simple. I want to keep my Kool-Aid full strength, not
it's better on the right side.
Diluted.
Yes, I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much for being here today. And I'm just so just honored to have you. I'm impressed so much about the impact that you're having on a global level, and I know will continue to have. I mean, how many marriages and relationships can you help just by sharing your heart and what you feel that
I
God
want
has
to
led
help
you to
them
do?
all.
Yeah,
I want to help them all
definitely
because it's important. There are enough challenges in a marriage, just getting along and having a cohesive effort with two different individuals,
right.
to allow external factors to be so paramount and leading to destruction of the marriage.
Mm-hmm.
You may argue with your wife. You may disagree with her. That's going to happen, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
And often the enemy capitalizes on those times by trying to get you, men, to dilute your Kool-Aid. We need to be aware of the enemy's devices.
Right.
I don't know any man who gets married with the plan of divorcing later.
Right.
That day at the wedding, he's looking at his bride. Keep looking at your bride the same way like you did the day you married her, and keep telling her how beautiful she is. And remind yourself to recommit your I do's.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Let's go drink some Kool-Aid.
This is the full
The
strength.
full strength,
This
right?
is the full strength here.
I don't want the other one. All right. Thank you so much, though, for having
Thank you, Nikki.
for being
I
on my
appreciate
show.
you having me on your show.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for joining Nikki Speaks TV, the relationship series. I'll see you next time. Thank you all for joining my show today on Nikki Speaks TV, the relationship series. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Twitter. Don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube, or you can visit me at nikkispeakstherapy.com. See you next time.